TPUC, the People's United Community. Okay, let's see what we can find here. Let's see the latest. Maybe check the menu. See what they got under there. Action charts. Let's check that out. Let's check out the Declaration of Rights. Although most people are familiar with this, but let's just do a quick checking on this. February 1688, 9th day, Tuesday, 12th. Whereas the late King James II, by the assistance of divers evil counselors, judges, and ministers employed by him, and did endeavor to subvert and anticipate the Protestant religion and laws and liberties of this kingdom, by assuming and exercising a power of dispensing with and suspending of laws and the execution of laws without consent of Parliament, by committing and prosecuting divers worthy prelates for humbly petitioning to be excused from concurring to the said assumed power, by issuing and causing to be executed a commission under the Great Seal for erecting a court called the Court of Commissioners for existential causes, by levying money for into the use of the crown by pretense of prerogative for other time in other manner than the same was granted by Parliament, by raising and keeping a standing army within this kingdom in time of peace without consent of Parliament, and quartering soldiers contrary to law, by causing several good subjects being Protestant to be disarmed at the same time when pepsis were both armed and employed contrary to law, by violating the freedom of election of members to serve in Parliament, by prosecuting in the Court of King's Bench for matters and causes cognizable only in Parliament, and by divers and other arbitrary and illegal courses. And whereas of late years partial, corrupt, and unqualified persons have been returned and served in juries in trials, and particularly divers jurors in trials for high treason, which were not freeholders, and excessive bail hath been required of persons committed in crimes cases to elude the benefit of the laws made for the liberty of the subjects, and excessive fines have been imposed, any illegal and cruel punishments inflicted, and several grants and promises made of fines and forfeitures before any conviction or judgment against the persons upon whom the same were to be levied, all which are utterly and directly contrary to the known laws and statutes and freedom of this realm. And whereas the said late King James II, having abdicted the government and the throne being thereby vacant, His Highness the Prince of Orange, whom it hath pleased Almighty God to make the glorious instrument of delivering this kingdom from property and arbitrary power, did, by the advice of the Lords spiritual and temporal and dies principal persons of the Commons, cause letters to be written to the Lords spiritual and temporal being Protestant, and other letters to be several countries, cities, universities, broths, and I don't even know how to pronounce that word, points for the choosing of such persons to represent them as were of right to be sent to Parliament, to meet and sit at Westminster upon the 22nd day of January in this year 1688 old style date, in order to such an establishment as their religion, laws, and liberties might not again be in danger of being subverted, upon which letters elections having been accordingly made, and thereupon the said lords spiritual and temporal and commons, pursuant to the respective letters and elections, being now assembled in a full and free representative of this nation, taking into their most serious consideration the best means for attaining the ends aforesaid, do in the first place, as their ancestors in like case have usually done, for vindicating and asserting their ancient rights and liberties, declare that the pretended power of suspending the laws or the execution of laws by regal authority without consent of Parliament is illegal. That the pretended power of dispensing with laws or the execution of laws by regal authority is and hath been assumed and exercised of fate is illegal. That the commission for eradicating the late court of commissioners for celestial causes and all other commissions in courts of like nature are illegal and pernicious. That levying money for or to the use of the crown by pretendence of prerogative without grant or parliament for a longer time or in the other manner than the same is or shall be granted is illegal. That is the right of the subjects of petition the king and all commitments and prosecutions for which petitions are illegal. That the raising or keeping a standing army within the kingdom in time of peace, unless it to be with consent of Parliament, is against law. That the subject which are Protestants may have arms for their defense suitable to their conditions as allowed by law. That election of members of Parliament ought to be free, that the freedom of speech and debates or proceedings in Parliament ought not to be impeached or questioned in any court or place out of Parliament. That excessive bail ought not to be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel, unusual punishments inflicted. That jurors ought to be duly impaneled. I don't even know how to pronounce that correctly. Wow. Impaneled and returned, and jurors which pass upon men in trials for high treason ought to be freeholders. That all grants and promises of fines, forfeitures of particular persons before convictions are illegal and void, and that for redress for all grievances and for the amending, strengthening, and preserving of the laws, parliaments ought to be held frequently, and they do claim, demand, and insist upon all in singular the premises as their undoubtable rights, liberties, and that no declaration, judgment, doings, or proceedings to the prejudice of the people in any of the said premises ought in any way and any wise to be drawn hereafter into consequence or example, or in this case, for example, to which demand of their rights they are particularly encouraged by the declaration of His Highness the Prince of Orange as being the only means for obtaining a full redress and remedy therein, having therefore an entire confidence that is said Highness the Prince of Orange will perfectly the deliverance so far advanced by him, and will still preserve them from the violation of their rights which they have here asserted, and from all other attempts upon their religion, rights, and liberties, the said lords spiritual and temporal and commons assembled at Westminster to do resolve that William and Mary, Prince and Princess Orange, be declared King and Queen of England, France, and Ireland, and the dominions thereunto belonging, to hold the crown and royal dignity of the said kingdoms and dominions to them. The said prince and princess during their lives and the life of the survivor to them, and that the sole and full exercise of the regal power be only in and executed by the said Princess of Orange in the names of the said princess and princesses during their joint lives, and after their deceases they said crown and royal dignity of the same kingdoms and the means to be in the heirs of the body of the said princess, and for default of such issues to the Princess Annie of Denmark and the heirs of her body, and for default of such issues to the heirs of the body of the said Prince of the Orange, and the Lord spiritual and temporal and commons do pray the said prince and princess to accept the same accordingly, and that the oaths hereafter mentioned be taken by all persons of whom the oaths have allegiance and supremacy might be required by law instead of them, that the said oaths of allegiance and supremacy may be abrogated. I, AB, do sincerely promise and swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to their majesties King William and Queen Mary, so help me God. I, AB, do swear that I do from my heart abhor, detest, and abjure, repulse, and heretical this demandable doctrine and position that the prince excommunicated or deprived by the Pope or any authority of the See of Rome may be deposed or murdered by their subjects or any other whatsoever. And I do declare that no foreign prince, persons, prelate, state, or pretend hath ought to have any jurisdiction, power, superiority, preeminence, authority, escalation, or spiritual within this realm, so help me God. It is ordered by the Lord, spiritual and temporal commons now assembled at Westminster that this declaration be engrossed in Parliament and enrolled among the rolls of Parliament and regularly in Chancery. Day 15, February 1688. His Majesty gracious answers to the declaration of both houses. Wow. Okay, it's not that long. I thought I was gonna have to read like a whole nother segment. I'm like, are you serious? Oh, well. Anyway, let's just get this over with. My lord and gentlemen, this is sincerely the greatest proof of the trust that you have in us that can be given, which is the thing that maketh us value it the more, and we thankfully accept that you have offered. And as I had no other intention of coming hither than to preserve your religion, laws, and liberties, so you may be sure that I shall endeavor to support them and shall be willing to concur in anything that shall be for the good of the kingdom and to do all that is in my power to advance the welfare and glory of the nation. Ordered by the Lord, spiritual and temporal, assembled at the Westminster of that His Majesty graciously answered to the declaration of both houses, and declaration of be forthwith printed and published, that His Majesty's gracious answer this day be added to the engrossed declaration in Parliament, but to be enrolled in Parliament Chancery. Now, why is this important? Well, if you didn't know, the King and Queen of, well, the Queen of England has a big role with the United States, as well as with England and all that other stuff, and as well as the nations underneath. It's underneath these doctrines and stuff. So with everything that you just read there, or well, everything that you just had, that I just read there, what do you think has been happening over the past few years with the Pope, with the government, police, with the FBI, with Homeland Security? What do you think has been happening over the last few years? Now, I want people to, I'm going to leave a link to this website. I want you to do your research on this, do some homework on this, because there's a lot of good information throughout this website that you don't know. That out of the way, I'm about to go relax because I gotta take my damn detox bath. I haven't did that in what, like 3 days? Man. Anyway, stay safe, stay strong, everybody.